Welcome back to another episode of Confessions from the Darkside. I'm LunarXRising,
And I'm Darcy
and
Darkness.
today we will be discussing,
Nostalgic Confessions of the
yes.
Darkside.
So basically, what we were going to go through today is on-screen deaths that have either been nostalgic in the past or even recent movies that have been kind of detrimental to action movies, horror movies, and stuff of, the past and today's genres. Would you like to kick us off with anything, or shall I start us off with something? Number three on my list, because we're going to do top three out of today, but number three on my list is actually going to be Cube. And Cube, I'm going to go with any of the movies and any deaths in Cube.
Oh,
For the
that's a big one.
Yeah, it is, and the reason why I decided to go with Cube, any of the movies and any deaths from Cube, is because they were. I mean, to be honest, they were good. They were well thought out. It was a planned movie, not like Escape Room Today or anything like that. It was a planned movie back when they did this to where it was well thought out. The death scenes were absolutely amazing. I mean, just you literally have to think of anything to sit there and make sure that the next room that you're going to is going to be safe. So I just it's hard to pick any death from that movie for the simple fact of, like I said, all the deaths
Not
were
even
great.
one you can pick. Not even
I can't.
if you had to pick.
If I had to pick, I would probably have to go with the very first Cube and the opening scene that is basically what set off that trilogy of movies.
I like the
Um,
first one, as you know, because it's really dark, and see that way because it's not the best like camera footage type. You know the way they filmed it because it was filmed on a budget as college students. That's what I think it
yeah,
makes it like more dark and it seems more real. Do you get what I mean?
yeah,
Not that I'm
absolutely.
thinking about dying in that way. Do you know?
I mean, you got to think the first Cube movie came out in '97,
Yep.
and then the second one was 2002, and then 2004, and then supposedly is this.
I've only got the trilogy because it's the original ones. I bet you if they've brought out more, that means it shoots a spin-off again. There's only so many ways you can fucking die, and
There
make it more
are,
gruesome. Sometimes it just ends up just coming across as stupid.
and I was looking on IMDb, just because I wasn't exactly sure when the first movie came out. I thought it was '95, but it was '97. But I was looking through here, and I guess they remade it in
Oh no,
2021.
I'm glad I didn't fucking know about that. I'd be ranting about that
And
still.
and it looks like it is a full Japanese cast, from what I'm seeing, and it did horrible. It got
Why am
4.5
I
out
not
of 10
surprised?
stars.
Why am I not surprised?
I mean, I'm not
Are they
surprised
stars and not
either.
cocks? Because sometimes, like stars, some people use cocks or thumbs up or actual stars.
No, these are actual stars, 4.5 stars out of 10. And going through here, now that I accidentally hit out of that, um, just going through here and just looking at some of the stuff on here, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that it got the rating that it did. But yeah, so I would definitely have to, if I had to go with anything, it would be the opening scene of the very first Cube. But that would be that would be one of my picks out of this one.
Number 3 for me, again, that these movies were the kind of first of their kind, and it has a very, again, iconic. And if you've listened to our podcast enough, I'll say that word to the point where you can create a drinking game. So the iconic is at the opening of Scream with Drew Barrymore.
All right,
Nothing quite
all
says
right.
this is going to be a movie that you want to see because she was a big actress then. She was killed off right at the fucking start. Do you know what I mean? That's why it was a shock, but it was just
Yeah,
like, did that just happen? Did she just be killed in her own house? And that is pretty much, again, even though she's done loads of films before and she was a child actress, that film, she must still get bombarded with, case Casey images, on the phone screaming. That's always a meme that's used. And then when she's getting stabbed, and then when she gets the killer wrong again, and then her punishment for that is she gave the wrong answer to a question, that she ended up being killed and then hung up and displayed for her parents to find her. And then they could hear her on the phone. I don't know what's worse, seeing that or hearing the last breath of your child. And I know it's a movie, but that is again, I seen that, I just will always remember, and it made me love Scream films because of that. Not the new ones, by the way. I'm talking about the first three, not when they try to spin off crazy ass stories. What do you think
Yes.
about
Yeah.
the opening for Scream? What did you think
Um.
though when you first seen Scream and seen that scene?
So when I first seen Scream, I knew it was going to be different. Just, I mean, again, not only the opening scene to Scream, but the movie in itself was different. Honestly, my favorite line out of all the Scream movies is probably one of the most recognizable, and it's, what's your favorite scary movie? So,
And how many people dressed up as that and used a voice
yes,
changer and shit?
yep. I mean,
Prank
that
calls
that
and so forth.
yeah, absolutely the best. The prank calls, just the memory growing up watching Scream. You have a mass killer basically prank calling people and
Fucking with them.
and yeah, messing with them, and then end up being basically outside their home or close to their home, and then just basically doing a cat and mouse chase with them. And not only that, that's left that movie open for that movie itself has, had so many movies that could take credit for these days.
Yep, definitely.
It ended up becoming a staple for movies, and yes, like you said, none of the new ones. It's in my opinion horrible that they are continuing the series
Yes.
because of family members of the killer and stuff like that. Spoilers, if anybody didn't know, going through any of the series when the killer is killed off, it's always the family members that take over the role.
Don't forget that. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the people that are always trying to help you. And then they say it's not me. When they say it's not me, it's you, mate.
It's you. I mean, you just gotta think. What was the recent movie that just came out not too long ago?
I
Happy
haven't
Death
seen
Day.
it. I have seen the trailer though.
Okay, so the premise of Happy Death Day is a girl basically gets to relive her birthday over and over again because she's dying until she finds the masked killer.
Okay, because
So
that's what happens when you cheat death.
yes, absolutely. And a lot of the premise of it, you have a girl who's trying to figure out who this mass killer is that keeps killing her, but she's reliving her birthday over and over again until she figures it out. At the end of the day, I can thank Scream for it. Now, the movie was not the greatest. I'm pretty sure it did do well, but it wasn't the greatest because I honestly can't think of really big name actresses or actors that were in it.
And their
And
acting obviously wasn't that great to be memorable, it seems.
no, the acting was not that great. It was almost like you're trying to watch a bunch of high school sorority girls trying to do something that they can't do. And that's, basically that's kind of what it was because she was I think, a college student. So it kind of fit very well. So yeah, Scream to me, I honestly thought was a very iconic and opening new doors,
Or cinema and that genre
of cinema.
anyway.
Yes, and not only that, I am a guy, so growing up, Drew Barrymore had some nice titties. I will say it. I don't care. She did
I
have nice
prefer
titties in that
Christina
movie.
Ricci.
Yeah, but in
Christina
that movie,
Ricci's
you
the
got to
better
see,
one when she
her
was
nipples
acting.
sticking out. So,
It was
in
the
my opinion,
90s. Nipples were everywhere.
this
Look at
is true.
Friends.
This is true. Well, her nipples were always hard. Rachel's, yeah, her nipples were
Exactly.
always
I want to
hard.
know what the fuck she was doing.
Probably playing with them before the scene. She was probably going like dee 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 dee. I know you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm sitting there playing with my nipples. So
All I know
that's
is all I can see is her doing that and making it that face where she does unagi. I'm just like,
have you ever seen Employee of the Month with Dane Cook and
yes, but yes.
yes. So every time that I always think of, Friends, or we'll even say Scream, because or any movie that's got a girl her nipples just sticking out. I always think back of Employee of the Month where they go, ding, ding, dinner's done, or chicken's done, or whatever it is.
Oh, it's over here. It's ting ting, turkey's done, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It was something like that, but every time I see a female with her nipples just sticking straight out, I always think back to that movie for some reason.
Temperature gauge, or is it, and also is it cold in here? And again, when a woman
Yes.
says it, it's just as inappropriate, by the way. You know what I mean? As a man, so I kind of have to say it in my head, or I'll turn around and say something to my husband like hours later and just laugh about it then.
Yes.
So I've got a dilemma
You got a dilemma. What is your
about
dilemma?
my next two because I have three, and I'm just trying to figure out what your next one is, and then I don't know because you might have picked my next one. That's the thing. Or actually, you
So
could
I
have
did.
picked any of mine.
So I did have a dilemma picking number two.
Ooh,
And I might
sorry.
and I might throw it in there as a bonus when we finish up going through our top
Oh,
three.
yay!
But my number two,
Oh,
I
it's not the
picked
same.
Alien.
Well, yay.
So again, aliens. Yeah, besides what Darcy said about being able to end up playing a drinking game off the word iconic.
We're gonna say it again and again and again.
Nostalgia could be another one that you could play a
Yeah,
drinking game off
and
of.
aliens.
And aliens, yes, because that will probably be a majority of our.
Yes,
Um,
aliens.
so aliens to me, it wasn't even the xenomorphs themselves. Obviously, when you want to think iconic deaths or nostalgic deaths from any old school movie, it's got to be the chest bursts from the aliens breaking out of the chest cavity. To me, that is the most iconic because the iconic and nostalgic. Here, we'll start a drinking game and we'll just put those two together so they have to drink twice. I think the biggest thing with aliens and the chest bursts were the fact that it was a sense of fear. You never knew when, where it was going to happen. So not only was it for the fact of, hey, this guy got, his face hugged by an alien, at this point in time, when's he going to die? And it usually, with any movie, it always happens at the most iconic point. It always happens at the climax of the movie.
Yep.
Or it happens when everything has settled down, the heroes have won, and boom, here this is. The chest burst, alien comes out, starts killing something, and it's always at that point that you lose a sense of trust for the movie because you think, oh, everything's settled down, we're good to go, the heroes are safe, and then all of a sudden, boom, the heroes are starting to get killed off one by one because one of their members that they didn't know had this alien growing inside them.
I know and they always talk about it. It's sorry, R. Take that out in a minute. I just need to remind myself to delete that because you can only say R and not say the other thing. So when the alien busts out of his chest, and yes, they use it, and they always say that it's like R. And I'm just like, where are you getting that from? Do you know what I mean? I said, really?
Yeah.
Because technically, it's more. Oh, what's the word? It's more like it's a parasite more than an R, and you can get parasites in multiple places in the world, not outside our universe yet, but I can imagine there are probably worse ones in space. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
bigger ones.
exactly. So I don't ever believe it's R. It's a parasite that was growing and it wanted to get out, and there was no way it was getting out. The way it went in.
Yep. I mean,
They talk about it in Prometheus, how they put, when Fassbender puts it into her, remember, and her partner and stuff, and then they have a baby, and then they like totally mess with it and shit. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's other ways to
Yeah.
get the
So that was
parasite.
number two to me. I thought that was again nostalgic to say the least. Because aliens. We grew up on alien movies way before the Alien series did come out. Whether or not they were gruesome, dark, murderous, mindless aliens like xenomorphs are, even though they can think to an extent. But we grew up on 80s, 70s movies that did have aliens in them, but this was a whole new chapter, a whole new cinematography.
If not, we will talk about Alien probably quite a lot and the whole Alien actual universe. So you'll
Yes.
you'll get what we know. You'll get us. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Rhonda, you're number 2. Interested.
Well, I want to say my number 2, but I'm not sure if it's going to be your number 1.
It probably won't be. I can guarantee it probably won't be.
It. Stephen King's It.
Definitely not.
That's not your number 1.
Actually,
Okay, that's
no.
fine. Well, for me, it was the original. Even though it does happen in the second, it does happen in the remake. It's when Georgie in the boat because his brother can't be asked, don't we fucking help him? And how fucking we don't have drains like that here in the UK. Our drains are different. I'm so fucking glad because I couldn't imagine walking past one of them in the fucking pissing rain because of the part of Scotland I live in that rains quite a lot. And when it rains, it
Yeah.
rains. So it seeing it as a kid, it puts the fear of just a stranger, in my opinion, not a stranger who has like hundreds of fucking teeth that's hiding to rip the piss out you and drag you under to your death. It's the fact that he was really nice, and your parents would tell you like don't trust someone giving you a sweetie or someone speaking to you that you don't know, and then
Yeah. Don't
Georgie
talk to
trusts him.
strangers.
Oh, seriously, that is awesome. Seriously, the amount of t-shirts I would have if there were, as you know. So it's the drain part for me, and it builds up. Something's going to happen with the music and just the kid. And I actually thought the kid was going to fall and hurt himself like badly, like because I didn't read the book when I had watched it because I was a kid. I think I was about 9 or 10 or something when I read. Sorry, when I seen it. I was quite young anyway. I hadn't read the book, so you see that way you're like, oh, something's going to happen. Something like, oh my god, expecting it, and then it's literally him hiding in the drain, offering him balloons and being nice to him and stuff. And then when he asks him if he wants his boat back, of course he fucking wants his boat back because his brother had helped him. And then he pulls the kid's arm, and then that's it, man. That terrifying as a child. It's also terrifying as an adult when you think about your child going out. So it literally sticks with you. None of this someone's following you push that people have issues with, thinking on a dark night. How about a random stranger who's a demonic clown, basically, with the sharpest fucking teeth I've ever seen in my life. And he literally bites your arm off and then kills you. Do you know what I mean? It's just that
Yep.
still to
Oh,
this day, and I
hello,
can remember
Georgie.
it like, hello, Georgie. Exactly. And
My name's
who says it
Pennywise.
creepier though? Who says it creepier though? Tim?
Quite honestly, I think in my opinion, Skarsgård does say it better. He has. I do, and the reason why is because he has that voice that kind of lures you in with a sense of safeness.
Was he saying
Tim
special?
Curry, Tim Curry had that voice that you could tell he was demonic in a presence. He didn't have that sense of calmness to him as Skarsgård did. So in my opinion, I thought he did. I'm not saying by any means that the remakes were better at all, but I definitely think that he did have a sense of calmness to him that lured Georgie to a sense of I think I can trust this guy.
Yeah. Kids don't get smarter. They get dumber, especially in horror.
Yes, but our phones get smarter, and that's exactly what we need.
Yeah. Like, is this
Artificial intelligence taking over the
yeah.
world.
It's like yeah, but it's like to the AI, it's like, is this stranger okay? Like
Right?
some sort of app that goes off. No, they're not okay. Get away. So what is your number 1?
So my number 1 is actually more of a recent movie that was actually released
Oh,
probably about a month ago.
oh, cool.
Um, and it's not really anything nostalgic, iconic. This is more or less for the brutality of things.
Nice.
I honestly, and it's not even a horror movie either. That's actually the funny thing. So it's actually Extraction 2.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No. I'm not really caring about spoilers though, because it doesn't bother me.
Okay, so Extraction 2 is a So the Extraction series is about a guy who was a special ops military guy. Now he does basically odd jobs of but the at the end of the very first one you think Tyler Rakes dies, which is portrayed by Chris Hemsworth, and at the end of the second one they are fighting at the top of a building or a corporate building, and the room that they're fighting in is actually a weight room. And just the brutality of how Chris Hemsworth character kills people because these guys are wearing like full body armor, everything like that. He's killing them with the weight benches. He's crushing their skulls with the leg left presses, stuff like that. So being somebody who can actually leg press a lot of weight, just knowing that, just watching that and seeing that he crushes people's heads with them or stuff like that, it's absolutely brutal. And just out of the fact of how he does it is absolutely phenomenal. And I thought it was a good one for the number one spot because just that whole movie in general does have a lot of great deaths. It's a very action-packed movie and kind of a very emotional movie in some aspects of the way. But just that ending scene where he's literally just wrecking these people's bodies with stuff that I use, and knowing that you train and everything like that, I know it's stuff that you would probably see and be like, it makes me a little leery working with this now because of of
Well,
this.
what it's been used for, yeah. You would never look at that dumbbell in the same way again.
Mm-mm. So that's why I elected to put that as number one, because I knew out of the both of us, our movies were going to be horror related. And yes, we are a horror related channel, uh, podcast, and branching off a little bit out of that, I thought it would be good. So that's why I picked Extraction 2 as my number one.
Okay. I can remember the film being out because I watched To Dumb, so I could do really bad commentary with some of my other friends in Discord. So that's how I know about Extraction 2. I think maybe my husband's seen the first one, but I know Chris Hemsworth is in it because they made a big thing about it. You know, that it was one of his films that wasn't Disney
Yeah.
or Marvel, Disney, Marvel, whatever. It comes down to my number one. I have a bonus too.
Number one.
My number one is Hellraiser, the original
All right.
Hellraiser. Frank, that's taking kinky to the extreme. Someone got way too carried away with a bondage at home workshop
That
right
they
there,
did.
didn't they?
Hellraiser. That, wow.
And it went
Yeah.
horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. When you think about it, Cenobites, yes, if you fuck with our puzzle box, and the box looks cool. I have one. I know, obviously the special edition. And the box, you see, it's again a iconic piece of the movie because it's surrounded. It's basically around the box, and everyone trying to solve it, isn't it? Really, and then the consequences of that. But the Cenobites do take the bad ones. They make them suffer in our world first, and then they take them to their world for an eternity and do even more bad things to them that you couldn't even probably imagine because they've got you now. They have your soul. They have you. So you fucked with them. Now you're going to pay for everything that you've done. But Frank, man, he got owned, man. He really did. There was a
He
chain
did.
connected to everywhere on him, and it just literally one fell swoop, boom. Do you know what I mean? Oh, and see the picture. The picture literally shows you at the nipples as well, and I'm just like, that I didn't have to see. Do you know what I mean? Just like Do you know what I mean? Holding.
Yeah, that was kind of one of those where you're like, did you really have to?
Exactly. You just
Was
said
it really necessary?
to give us that visual, really for an eternity. That's their gift. It was
I mean,
Frank.
the Hellraiser series, I mean, they were really good at visuals. I will give the series that. Even the remake, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of it, or not the remake, because it is a continuation and they do go into a little bit of in depth of the box and stuff like that about it, and I thought that was probably one of the coolest parts of the new one. But the movies in general, no matter if it's the new one that wasn't that great or even the originals, they were very visual. and I loved it for that aspect. So I guess I could see, them showing nipples as a, visual
Sure.
aspect, but I mean, did we really need
Although,
it?
although, do you think Frank enjoyed it? That's what you need to think
At
about.
first, he probably did,
But then it was just, that is it.
until he realized he was screwed,
Yeah, and there was no coming
literally.
back from that. There was no coming
Exactly.
back from that. So what is your bonus one then?
So again, my bonus one, it was going to be number 2, but I opted for Aliens instead. But my
Okay.
bonus one actually comes from a psychological thriller called Don't Hang Up.
Oh, that psychological thrillers though have again another kind of way. They fit into horror though as well
Yes. So
because
have
of
you seen Don't
no.
Hang Up?
But again, I can find
No.
the gist of
Yeah.
the title right there.
So Don't Hang Up is actually, it's got some kids in it that I want to say maybe one of them played in Neighbors,
Okay.
but I'm not
Was it?
100% sure. Give me one second. I'm just looking up his movie list to make sure I am thinking of the correct guy that played in Neighbors, because I could be wrong.
I'm also adding in, like, if you've not seen the movie or you talk about a movie, both of us, we can actually, maybe
No,
watch them.
yeah.
That's what I'm doing now.
Don't Hang Up came out in 2016. Yeah. He did play in a couple movies. He was in an episode of That Halloween podcast, but he played in I want to say it's most likely a kids movie, or I'm gonna actually definitely say it's a kid movie. It's called Teen Beach Movie
Okay. It
and
sounds like
Teen Beach
an
2.
adult movie. That sounds like a
Yeah,
adult movie.
so he played in it. Basically, the gist around Don't Hang Up is you have a group of friends who prank call people, and their prank calls aren't, calling people and saying, is your refrigerator running, or, stupid stuff like that. They go pretty gruesome and dark with their prank calls. And in the first opening scene of it, to be quite honest, if you can't get the premise of where the movie's going from the opening scene, then I can't help you. That's basically it, because you definitely get the premise of the opening scene right off the get-go, and you can just get basically the gist of throughout the movie what's going to end up happening, even though it still is a shock in some parts of the movie. But my on-screen death out of the whole thing was the very end of the movie, which didn't necessarily it had deaths but didn't have deaths. It's how it was orchestrated. Throughout the whole movie, a guy is now harassing the pranksters, killing their friends, stuff like that, and at the end of the movie, what ends up happening is the one friend ends up killing a guy who is in a mask that they had thought was originally the guy who was prank calling them. But at the end of it, this is where the psychological thriller part turns into it. The guy that was under the mask that the friend killed was actually his other friend that was there with him the whole time. And he couldn't help because his hands were duct taped with a knife, his mouth was duct taped shut. So he accidentally killed his best friend that had nothing to do with what was going on throughout this whole night. And then the kid ends up getting blamed for all these murders.
It sounds like something I would watch.
It was a good movie. It did not get that much praise.
Was it the wrong time?
I I want to say it was, and not only that, we kind of now got, at the time that it came out, I think it was 2016, 2015. We had already been through the genres of movies, kind of like that. So, I mean, we had for years Scream. Scream had that premise of a guy prank calling. Um, what was the other movie? Where the girl was a babysitter and she kept getting prank calls about not hanging up and stuff like that. Back in like the 90s or early 2000s. I can't remember the title of that movie right off the top of my head. But
Me, I can't either.
so I mean, we did have a bunch of these movies, and I think the reason why it didn't get too much praise is, one, because right off the get-go, like I said, you can basically get the gist of the movie from the opening scene. So it was predictable. The
Something
acting,
that,
I will actually say, was not half bad. A lot of people will
hmm,
disagree with me on that, but the acting for
a
actors
horror
that weren't
movie.
really well known.
And also a horror movie. It doesn't have to be fucking Oscar winning.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't no Texas Chainsaw Massacre where we had the original Scream Queen from.
Exactly. It wasn't
But
needing to be special, it was just needing to be done.
yes.
Where was Nicolas Cage?
But
He could have filled that role.
Scream Queen?
Yes. Imagine him. You know what I mean?
I mean, Nicolas Cage could definitely fill the role of Scream Queen. There's no
Definitely.
doubt in my mind on that one. So, but it was just the twists and turns throughout the movie to me where it made it unpredictable, but it was still predictable from, like I said, the beginning. But you just don't know the explanation of why this guy's doing it until I want to say 3/4 of the way through the movie. I did have another one, but I chose this one over that one because I've actually rewatched both of them numerous times because I thoroughly enjoyed both the movies. So, do you by any chance have a bonus one that you'd like to put your input in, or?
Always. And neither, I wasn't sure if you were going to pick, remember my one or two. So I had like a bonus one. The the original Final Destination, because it was based on like, you know, visions, premonitions
Yes.
after a near death experience, and they walked away. Because again, there wasn't anything like it. Kind of good actors for that time because of the kind of, it was like a teen young, wasn't it? So it would come under that genre.
Yep. That had Ali Lauder in it
Well,
too.
yeah, the first two I do like, but see when you see things from those movies, like I've joked before, like being on like the dual carriageway or the motorway, and you're behind like the lorry with all the fucking logs, man, and you're like, this is it. This is it. Do you know what I mean? You get a total fear.
Oh, you know how many of those I pass going to work on a daily basis, and I pass them. I don't, and I see people literally sit behind them. I don't care if I'm in my work van and I'm GPS tracked and speed tracked, where if I go 10 miles per hour over, I get
I'm sorry,
text.
it's a log lorry.
Nope, I don't care. I
No,
will
have you
drive
ever
past
seen
it.
Final Destination? Really, the pane of glass as well, because you do see people changing panes of glass as well. Do you know what I mean? You see that because that film had
Mm-hmm.
things that could happen, and again, incinerated on on a flight as well, hit by a bus. Do you know what I mean? These things happen. Well, it's actually the second one. Apparently, I was just checking. It's the
Yeah,
second
I
one. It's the
mean,
log, but I just like the first two. I know there's loads. Is it
yes,
5? No, 7. 7? It's the first two
7,
I've liked.
7, yes, and I think they're
No,
supposed to be
no.
restarting the
Mm-mm.
series too, which I'm not happy
Again, hit
about.
by a garbage truck. That actually happened in Glasgow. The guy fell asleep at the wheel and he killed a bunch of people at Christmas time in a busy fucking street. That was maybe about 8 years ago. Do you know
I
what I mean? So
mean,
that happens.
I can't remember which one it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's that one, or I can't remember which one it was. If it was 4 or 5, with the racetrack, the car killing
Again,
a
that
bunch of
could
people on the
happen.
racetrack. I mean, how you I could sit here and watch so many NASCAR crashes, and most of them can go up in the stands. So yes, there's that one, or um,
Yes.
number
And
3
again,
with the roller
roller
coaster,
coasters. Yep.
get a
Again, it's
broken
the
track.
that can happen, but they don't talk about these things a lot of the time. All the accidents in the parks and stuff because of health and safety reasons.
Mm-mm.
People won't want to go there if you can die.
What was it? It was a big thing in the news about that that amusement park attraction. It was basically that free fall one where it takes you up in the air
Yeah,
and then drops you and then does that over and over again a couple of times, where the kid was put in a
I
faulty
know.
seat, and when it dropped, he hit the ground at like 50 miles per hour. I mean, and I do believe he died on impact. That's absolutely horrible.
No, they
They don't
do.
talk about these things. That these real life situations, in especially the Final Destination. Yeah, and granted, obviously the stuff afterwards, is a little less unbelievable because now you have death following your every footsteps, trying to finish a job that it never did finish.
That's just a
That's a
feeling.
little,
People have that feeling
unbelievable.
if they
But
they miss their time, or they feel like they dodged a bullet or something, or like, you know, people who like are supposed to be someplace and then a tragedy happens and you'll know there, you're like, holy fuck, that could have been me. Do you know what I mean? It's just so, that's what I mean. That's why
Yeah.
those films
Yeah.
again, the first one, I feel the first one and the second, I don't know when they were released, but it felt like they were quite close together. You know, because sequels weren't that, you know, especially sequels that didn't need that much. Like a lot of the stuff is CGI, so it's not. You know what I mean? It's easier, if you know what I mean, rather than having actors dealing with stuff. So you're just having to like put that footage in. So it's not like you need loads and loads of time for it. Because again, I've said it before. It's like, maybe not on this podcast, but I've said it and obviously talking about movies, that sequels and stuff, see, because the way cinema worked, like, you know, it would be in the cinema in the States usually first before it came to the UK when I was a kid. So by the time you were getting it out on VHS, we were like getting it at the cinema. And then, you know, it felt like things were like happening, the sequels were
Yeah.
happening quite close together because the way it worked. And now you get like, sometimes, like, was it we got Lord of the Rings? Was it the first Lord of the Rings before America people lost their fucking shit? Do you know what I mean? So because it was released somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else first. But again, I think it's a good thing if they release it somewhere else first. Worldwide's better, but however. But yeah,
So going through here and looking at it, um, Final Destination was in 2000. Destination 2 was
it's not that
2003.
far apart.
Final Destination 3 was
Every 3 years,
2006. So it
a
seems like they
three.
followed a 2 to 3 year period because the Final Destination, was released in 2009. Um, Final Destination 5 was released in 2011. So that was 2 years after the fourth one. And then doesn't say when Final
What, the
Destination
death
6
of
was
the
released.
senses, is it, or looks could kill?
But I'm gonna kind of go
It's every
with,
3 years.
2 to 3
Yeah.
years for Dino Destin. Yeah, for
It's
Destination
kind of like
6
you
as
didn't
well.
really get used to the first one when it happened, and you go see the second one, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, that's even worse. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, go see the other one's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't. It's the suspense as well, but you know it's coming. It's called Final Destination. There isn't anything, you know, positive about that. If it said the last
No, absolutely
destination, then you'd be
not.
like, fuck, this is obviously. But when is it ever the last with horror films? When is it? No,
Yeah, I
no.
mean,
They can cash in.
there's
So what's the point?
certain horror movies that, in my opinion, do need to stop.
What do you think? What ones need to
Scream,
stop? Scream,
Hellraiser, Final Destination is
Hellraiser.
another one. If they do either continuing or remaking, I think they don't. I think it needs to stop because,
No,
in
just
all
don't.
fairness, the last couple Final Destinations started to get a little corny.
Scary and not psychological or thriller or
And not
anything like
only
that. Just
that, the
they are, and
actors
that's
that
it.
they had in them, most of those actors play in extremely corny movies that are mainly comedies. No, like,
So they're not really that kind of
I
actor.
can't remember. I think it was the one with the racetrack with the guy. He played in a comedy called Fired Up about two guys who were football players that wanted to basically get laid, so they end up joining a cheerleading camp to go join a bunch of cheerleaders. That is a comedy. That is not horror
Oh,
based. So you're putting known actors from different genres, just like I want to say that same one. No, the guy that one was where they were in the um that workplace with the industrial workplace. It was that guy, and the same guy. He was the same guy that played in it too. Had the, I guess I want to say, like, the old man haircut where he had the hair on the side, but he was bald at the top. I can never remember his name, but he also plays in stupid, corny comedy movies. So you got these two guys that played in corny comedies playing a horror tragedy thriller movie, and it just, the acting was horrible.
I feel for you because there has been so many movies that the acting's terrible that I've actually looked at my husband and went, really?
Oh, and
Really.
and that's
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not sitting through this. I'm just like,
that,
no.
and my wife absolutely hates me for it. And when I don't use the word hate that often, but she hates me for it, literally. We could
It
literally
has a disliking for
no,
it.
no, she hates
A
she hates
dislike.
me. There's no disliking. She absolutely hates me. We'll be sitting there watching. She'll pick a movie out, a horror movie out, or something like that. Within the first 5 minutes, I'm not interested anymore. I think the acting is shit, and I'll tell her about it. She gets pissed off and changes the movie. She hates me for it.
Well, I just pull a face apparently, and even though I'm like quite, remember I said I'm quite monotone in my voice, and some people can't tell if I'm happy or whatever. See my facial expressions, they're the exact same. So I apparently, when I don't like something, I pull a face, and sometimes it's just my eyes. You can tell. It's just like, right,
Yeah,
okay.
it's there's so many movies out there that like within the first 5 minutes, if it's doesn't grab my attention, if the acting just seems like it's going to be shady throughout the whole movie, I will no longer be interested in. Now, if I go into the movie knowing it's going to be a cornball of a movie, that's a different thing. But when what I expect from a horror movie is 1,000 times different.
So that's our bonuses.
Yeah, that is our bonuses. Yeah, Final Destination definitely was a good pick for your bonus. It was going to be in my top three, but I just had other ones that I could have thrown in there that, in my opinion, throwing Final Destination in there, you couldn't go wrong with it any which way you wanted to pick. So, yeah, that's why I didn't pick it for my top three. But for a bonus, I thought that was actually a very good choice. And if you haven't watched any of the movies that we did pick, please do yourself a favor and watch them. Every movie between
Yes.
hers and mine are great movies. Even the bonuses that we picked are great movies. Everybody has seen Final Destination. I'm sure if you haven't, then you are missing out on a very psychological,
Where have you
yeah,
been?
on a thriller, literally a thriller of a ride. Um, Quoting, I guess,
Psychological thriller,
yes,
right?
I guess quoting Final Destination 3 with the roller coaster, you're definitely missing out on a thriller of a ride. um,
Mm-hmm.
and then with mine, if you guys are absolutely love psychological thrillers, then Don't Hang Up is one for the making. Even though it did not get that much praise, I thought myself personally it was a great movie. We're gonna come to a close here in a few minutes for this episode of Nostalgic On-Screen Death. We are going to ask a question for our next episode that we will answer at the beginning of the episode for any comments that we see, any questions that are brought back to us, stuff like that. But what horror movie or horror movies turned you away from the genre altogether? This is a question that we will be answering on our next episode between her and I. And this will also be a question that we will answer through comments as well. If we see any comments that are good or the same as what we are going to say, we will answer them with our answers as well. If you guys have any questions for us about any other movies that we would choose out of this uh, question, and or if you want us to answer a question about a movie, we will absolutely do that. Anything else that you want to add into that?
Yes, when we're talking about what horror movies made you, what would you say are the things that would turn you away from horror? Also, my question was, what horror movies made you think, huh, really, really? Mm. What made you feel that way, and it made you think, do I love horror anymore? If you let us know in the comments below. Also, if there's any movies you think that we might like, or films you want to see if we've maybe seen or watched, so we can maybe talk about them. Is there a scene in it that you think's memorable? Is it gory? Is it graphic? Let us know in the comments below. That's, again, we love to hear about stuff like that, don't we?
Absolutely. And we definitely want your guys' feedback as well. So, definitely any movies that we may have not seen or have seen, and you guys just want us to know a little bit about it, we will definitely be there for it.
And that is everything from Confession of the Dark Side, Nostalgic Confessions of the Dark Side, this episode. And we'll see you in the next one.
Have a good one.